Elisha was a prophet in ancient Israel, known for his close relationship with his mentor, Elijah. After Elijah was taken up to heaven in a whirlwind, Elisha took up Elijah's mantle and continued his work. Here's a story from the Bible about Elisha. Elisha and the widow's oil. During Elisha's time, there was a widow who was in great distress. Her husband, who had been a prophet, had passed away, leaving her with debt and creditors demanding payment. To make matters worse, the creditors were threatening to take her 2 sons as slaves to settle the debt. Desperate, the widow sought Elisha's help. Elisha, moved by her plight, asked her what she had in her house. She replied that she only had a small jar of olive oil. Elisha then instructed her to borrow as many empty jars from her neighbors as she could and to pour oil from her jar into all the empty ones. The widow did as Elisha instructed. Miraculously, the small jar of oil filled all the borrowed jars until there were no more left to fill. Elisha then told her to sell the oil, pay off her debts, and live off the rest with her sons. Through Elisha's intervention, the widow and her sons were saved from slavery, and they were able to live comfortably without fear of losing their home or freedom. This story demonstrates Elisha's compassion and the miraculous provision that came through his faith in God. Elisha's life is filled with many remarkable stories of miracles and acts of faith. Here are a few more stories from the Bible that showcase Elisha's character and the power of God working through him. Elisha and the Shunammite woman. There was a wealthy woman from Shunem who showed kindness to Elisha, providing him with food and a place to stay whenever he passed through her town. Elisha was grateful for her hospitality and wanted to bless her. He prophesied that she would have a son, despite her old age and her husband's age. Sure enough, she bore a son, just as Elisha had predicted. However, tragically, the boy died young. The Shunammite woman sought out Elisha, who came and miraculously raised her son from the dead. Elisha and the healing of Naaman. Naaman, a commander in the army of the king of Aram, suffered from leprosy. Upon hearing that there was a prophet in Israel who could heal him, Naaman went to see Elisha. Elisha did not meet Naaman in person, but instead sent a messenger instructing him to wash 7 times in the Jordan River. Naaman was initially offended by the simple instructions, but his servants convinced him to obey. When Naaman followed Elisha's instructions, his leprosy was completely healed. Elisha and the floating axe head. While Elisha was with a group of prophets by the Jordan River, one of the prophets was cutting down a tree when the head of his axe fell into the water and sank. Distressed because the axe was borrowed, the prophet cried out to Elisha for help. Elisha asked where the axe head had fallen into the water, and he threw a stick into that spot. Miraculously, the iron axe head floated to the surface, and the prophet was able to retrieve it. These stories highlight Elisha's role as a miracle worker and a prophet who demonstrated God's power and compassion to those around him.